It was one of those sweltering summer afternoons when the heat seemed to melt everything: tempers, patience, even paint. On the corner of 8th and Grant Avenue, a young man stood on a ladder, headphones on, spray can hissing rhythmically against a cracked brick wall. He moved fast and confident, blending streaks of color into something that was still taking shape: the beginnings of a massive mural. A pair of outstretched hands, one black, one white, reaching toward each other across a swirl of smoke and flame. But before he could finish the curve of the final line, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey! Step away from the wall!" The artist froze. He turned slowly, the can still in his hand. A police cruiser had pulled up, lights flashing even though there was no crowd, no threat, just him. The officer stepped out, tall, mid-40s, clean-cut, wearing mirrored sunglasses, and the kind of stiffness that came from years of command. His name tag read, Sergeant Michael Turner. "City ordinance prohibits graffiti on public property," Turner said flatly, already reaching for his cuffs. "You're under arrest for vandalism." The artist lowered his headphones, incredulous. "Vandalism? I got permission from the building owner." Turner didn't pause. "Show me the permit." I don't have it on me," the young man said, stepping down from the ladder. "But I swear, this is for the community festival. The city art board approved it." Turner snorted. "Right, I'm sure they did." The artist's jaw tightened. "You can check. My name's Devin Brooks. I'm not tagging, I'm painting. There's a difference." "There's a difference when there's proof," Turner replied, grabbing his wrist. Devin yanked his arm back. "Man, I'm telling you, this isn't—" That was as far as he got before Turner spun him around, pressing him against the wall that was still half painted, one hand gripping his shoulder, the other snapping the cuffs into place. The hiss of the spray paint was replaced by the sharp click of metal. By the time the squad car pulled away, a small crowd had gathered, locals shaking their heads, whispering among themselves. Turner ignored them all, eyes fixed on the road. Devin sat in the back seat, arms tight behind him, sweat dripping down his neck. "You think you're helping the city with this?" Turner muttered. "You're the reason neighborhoods look like trash." Devin shot him a glare in the rearview mirror. "You ever think maybe I'm trying to make it look better?" Turner smirked. "Sure, you and your spray cans." "Yeah," Devin said quietly. "Me and my spray cans. Sometimes that's all we got." At the precinct, paperwork swallowed the next 2 hours. Devin's fingerprints were taken, his belongings bagged. Turner filed the report, like he'd done 100 times before. Routine, mechanical. But when the desk sergeant reviewed the arrest, his eyebrows shot up. "Wait, Devin Brooks? The muralist for the Unity Festival?" Turner frowned. "What?" The sergeant turned his screen toward him. "You just arrested the city's commissioned artist. Mayor's office approved his work 2 weeks ago. It's supposed to be unveiled next month." Turner blinked, jaw tightening. Devin smirked from the holding bench. "Told you." The sergeant sighed. "You better fix this fast, Mike. The press is already sniffing around." Turner's face went pale. The press?" "Yeah," the sergeant said, printing a copy of the release order. "Congratulations. You just arrested the city's pride project." When Turner walked Devin out of the station, he tried to keep his tone professional. "It was a misunderstanding." Devin turned to him, eyes hard. "No, it was a judgment. You saw a black man with spray paint and decided he was a criminal." Turner didn't respond. He couldn't, because deep down, he knew Devin was right. "Just finish your mural," he said finally. "Let's put this behind us." Devin looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll finish it, all right. But you're not going to like what's in it." As he walked away, Turner realized, maybe for the first time, that he'd just made an enemy with a spray can and a story that people would want to hear. And that story was about to spread faster than any rumor he'd ever tried to silence. By the next morning, the mural at 8th and Grant was no longer just paint. It was news. Someone had filmed the arrest. The video showed Sergeant Michael Turner handcuffing Devin Brooks against the half-finished wall, Devin shouting that he had city approval, while Turner ignored him. Within hours, it had gone viral. Headlines flooded social media. Police sergeant arrests city-commissioned artist. Mural of Unity interrupted by division. The irony was too loud to ignore, and the city was furious. When Turner arrived at the precinct that morning, cameras already lined the sidewalk. Reporters shouted questions as he passed. Sergeant Turner, did you know the artist had a city permit? Was race a factor in your decision to arrest him? Do you plan to apologize publicly? He didn't answer any of them. He just kept walking, jaw tight, eyes forward. Inside, the captain was waiting for him. Mike, he said sharply, you're off patrol for now. The mayor's office wants this cleaned up yesterday. Turner's stomach dropped. You're suspending me? Administrative leave, until further notice. Turner started to protest, but the captain raised a hand. You embarrassed the department? You arrested the guy painting our city's symbol of unity. You realize how bad this looks? Turner swallowed hard. It was a misunderstanding. It was a mistake, the captain cut in, and you need to make it right. Meanwhile, across town, Devin Brooks was back at his mural, this time with half the neighborhood cheering him on. Kids handed him water bottles, old ladies brought sandwiches, and volunteers helped clean the area so he could finish. Someone even taped a newspaper clipping to the wall beside him. Local artist detained while painting hope. Devin looked at it and shook his head. Guess I'm famous now, he muttered. A young reporter holding a mic approached. Devin, how does it feel to know your art's become a symbol of protest? He paused, looking at the half-finished image, the two hands reaching for each other, still incomplete. I didn't start this to protest. I started this to heal. He looked straight into the camera. But if my art makes people look at what's wrong, maybe that's what healing needs to start with. That night, Turner couldn't sleep. Every news station replayed the video. Every comment online tore at his reputation. But what kept him awake wasn't the humiliation, it was the mural itself. The next morning, when he couldn't take it anymore, he drove to 8th and Grant in plain clothes. No uniform, no badge. He parked a block away and approached quietly, staying in the shadows. Devin was there, surrounded by onlookers. The mural was almost complete now. A massive piece of art covering the entire wall. At the center, two hands reached for each other. One painted like fire, the other like water. But in the background, Turner froze when he saw his own face. Devin had painted him. Not a villain, not a hero, but as part of the story. His reflection appeared in the mural's mirrored glass, holding a set of broken handcuffs between the two reaching hands. It was raw, powerful, and painful to look at. Turner approached slowly, his voice low. That's me? Devin glanced over his shoulder, his expression unreadable. Yeah, it's you. Why? Turner asked quietly. You could have painted anything. Devin turned back to the wall, shaking his spray can. Because the truth's bigger than what you did. You thought I was just another tagger. But this, he gestured to the mural. This is what the city looks like when people stop seeing each other as enemies. Turner stood there, staring up at it. And I'm part of that? Devin shrugged. You were part of the problem. Now, you can be part of the picture. For a long time, neither man spoke. The only sound was the steady hiss of paint. Finally, Turner said quietly, It's beautiful. Devin looked at him. Yeah, it will be. By the time the mural was finished, the crowd had grown huge. Reporters, city officials, even the mayor. They applauded when Devin put down his last can and signed his name at the bottom. The mayor stepped forward. This piece will stand as a reminder that unity doesn't come from words. It comes from learning, forgiveness, and courage. The crowd cheered. Turner stood at the edge, silent, his badge feeling heavier than ever. He didn't know it yet, but the mural he had once tried to stop was about to save not only his career, but his entire city's reputation. Because within a week, a scandal would hit the news, one that only Devin's mural could repair. A week after the mural was unveiled, the city was boiling over. A leaked video had surfaced online, a recording from inside the police department showing officers joking about racial profiling during traffic stops. It was crude, ugly, and impossible to defend. Within hours, national news outlets picked it up. The city's name, Brookfield, was trending for all the wrong reasons. Protesters gathered downtown, chanting outside police headquarters. Reporters filled the sidewalks, and in every headline, the mural at 8th and Grant was mentioned as the bitter contrast, a symbol of peace, born out of conflict, now standing against the department that had disgraced itself. The mural that said, "What the police couldn't. Art for unity becomes city's only redemption." Inside his small apartment, Sergeant Michael Turner watched the chaos unfold on TV. His phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, colleagues, even old friends asking for comments. But he didn't answer. For the first time in 20 years on the force, he didn't know what to say. The next morning, he was called into the precinct for a closed meeting with the captain and city officials. Turner walked in wearing plain clothes, his badge clipped to his belt. The air in the conference room was thick with tension. "Mike," the captain started, voice low, "you've seen the footage. The department's image is in ruins." Turner nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. The mayor's office wants something visible. Something that proves we're not the monsters the world thinks we are." "What are you asking me to do?" The captain exchanged a glance with the mayor's aide before speaking. "At the mural. You were part of that incident. The public still remembers your face. We want you to stand beside Devin Brooks and address the city. Together. Show unity." Turner blinked. "You want me to face the man I arrested? In front of everyone?" The aide nodded. "He's agreed to it. He thinks it might help." Later that day, Turner drove back to 8th and Grant. The mural shimmered in the afternoon light, the two hands still reaching across smoke and flame, his painted face between them, holding the broken cuffs. Devin was there, painting a small touch-up near the bottom edge. When he saw Turner, he lowered his can. "Didn't expect you to come back," Devin said quietly. "Didn't think I'd have a reason to," Turner replied. He hesitated before adding, "They want us to speak. Together." Devin raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Public relations?" Turner didn't deny it. "The department's under fire. The mayor's hoping this mural can remind people that we're capable of change." Devin leaned back, crossing his arms. "And what about you, Sergeant? You think change is something that can be painted over?" Turner's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "No, but I think it's something you can earn." For the first time, Devin saw something real in his eyes. Guilt, yes, but also humility. "All right," Devin said finally. "We'll do it. But this isn't about saving your badge. It's about saving the truth." Turner nodded slowly. "Fair enough." The following day, a crowd filled the streets around the mural once more. News vans lined the sidewalks. The mayor stood at a podium, flanked by Devin and Turner. As cameras flashed, Devin stepped forward first. "I painted this wall to bring people together," he said into the mic. "But I didn't know that before we could do that. It would show how far apart we really were. This mural isn't about forgiveness. It's about accountability and the hope that we can still build something better." Applause rippled through the crowd. Then the mayor gestured to Turner. The officer stepped forward, visibly nervous. His voice was low but steady. "I've worn this badge for over 20 years, he began. "And in that time, I've seen what happens when pride replaces purpose. I arrested this man," he gestured to Devin, "because I saw him through my fear, not through my duty. That was wrong, not just as an officer, but as a person." The crowd fell silent. Turner continued, his tone breaking slightly. "If we want this city to heal, then we have to start by admitting what we've done wrong. We can't erase the past, but we can learn from it. And I want to thank Devin Brooks for teaching me that." The applause that followed wasn't thunderous. It was quiet, respectful, and real. Reporters captured the moment when Devin and Turner shook hands beneath the mural. The same two hands painted above them, mirrored in flesh and blood. That image spread across the country overnight. The city that had been trending for scandal was now trending for something else. Brookfield's mural of unity becomes national symbol of hope. Later that night, Devin stood alone before his mural, the streets finally quiet. Turner approached, still in his civilian clothes. "You saved the city's reputation," Turner said softly. "And maybe mine?" Devin smiled faintly. "You did that yourself when you showed up." He looked up at the wall. Funny thing about art, it doesn't cover the cracks. It turns them into part of the story. Turner nodded slowly. "Maybe that's what we are now. Part of the story." "Yeah," Devin said, stepping back. "And this one's finally got a happy ending." The mural at 8th and Grant Avenue no longer belonged just to Devin Brooks. It belonged to the city. Every day, people came to see it. Tourists took photos, families brought their kids, teachers led art classes beneath its bright colors. And under the mural's watchful eyes, the two hands, the smoke, the broken cuffs, something began to change. What had started as outrage had turned into conversation, and what had started as a conversation had begun to turn into action. A few weeks after the press conference, Sergeant Michael Turner was reinstated, not back to street duty, but to a new role, Community Relations Officer. It wasn't a promotion, it was something far more meaningful, a second chance. Instead of chasing suspects, Turner was now helping organize neighborhood workshops, youth mentorship programs, and public art collaborations between the police and local students. And the man helping him organize them was none other than Devin Brooks. Their first project together was called Voices on the Wall. Every month, Devin invited kids from across Brookfield to paint murals on old buildings, legal, public, and powerful. The police department provided supplies, safety, and funding. At first, the partnership drew skepticism. People didn't believe it would last. Not between the cop who arrested an artist and the artist who exposed the system. But it did last. Because they both understood what it meant to make mistakes and what it took to rebuild trust layer by layer, color by color. One evening, Devin arrived early to one of the community events. The new mural in progress stretched across an abandoned warehouse wall. It showed a crowd of silhouettes holding candles, each one glowing in a different color. Turner was already there, setting up tables with paint trays and bottled water. "You're early," Devin said with a grin. Turner smiled. "These kids work fast. Figured I'd keep up." Devin chuckled. "Never thought I'd see the day, a cop handing out spray cans." Turner raised an eyebrow. "Don't tell the chief." They both laughed. Then Turner's tone softened. "You know, I used to think the badge was the only way to make a difference. Turns out, a paintbrush might be just as powerful." Devin nodded. "They're both tools. Depends on who's holding them." As dusk settled, the streetlights flickered on, bathing the wall in warm gold. Dozens of children and teenagers were painting now, their laughter echoing through the block. And in that moment, Brookfield, once divided by fear and pride, looked alive again. Reporters called it a miracle of art. But for the people who lived there, it was simpler than that. It was humanity, rediscovered. A few weeks later, the mayor announced that the original mural at 8th and Grant would be preserved permanently, protected by glass and lighting so it could never fade. And beneath it, a bronze plaque was placed reading, "The Mural of Unity, created by artist Devin Brooks, redeemed by a city that chose to see again." Turner stood beside Devin as the plaque was unveiled. Cameras flashed, but for once, the moment wasn't about reputation or redemption. It was about legacy. As the crowd cheered, Turner leaned closer. "You realize what you did here?" Devin shook his head. "What we did. One wall, two stories, one city that finally decided to listen." Later that night, when the crowd was gone, Turner and Devin lingered beneath the mural. The air was cool, the city quiet. "Think it'll last?" Turner asked. Devin looked up at the colors glowing in the light. "Paint fades, but stories? They stick around." He smiled faintly. "You and me, we're proof of that." Turner nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess we are." And for the first time, the silence between them wasn't heavy with guilt or regret. It was filled with peace. In the months that followed, Brookfield became a model city. The police department partnered with local artists to restore public spaces. The crime rate dropped, and the annual Unity Festival became the largest community event in the state. At the opening ceremony, a child stepped on stage holding a paintbrush and said into the microphone, "Art doesn't fix people. It reminds them they can be fixed." Devin smiled from the audience. And when he glanced beside him, Turner was smiling too. 5 years later, the mural at 8th and Grant Avenue was no longer just a piece of local art. It had become a national symbol. Tourists visited it year-round. Schools taught about it in art and civics classes. Documentaries called it the wall that changed a city. Even the president mentioned it once during a speech about reconciliation. When a community chooses to heal instead of hate, when a wall becomes a bridge, that's what America looks like. The people of Brookfield were proud again, and no one felt that pride more deeply than Devin Brooks and Michael Turner. That morning, the two men stood together in front of a crowd at the newly dedicated Brookfield Center for Art and Justice. Behind them hung a giant photograph of the mural, still brilliant after all these years. The mayor stepped up to the podium, smiling. Today, we honor two citizens who showed us that forgiveness can rebuild more than trust. It can rebuild entire communities. He gestured toward them. Please welcome Sergeant Michael Turner, now retired, and artist Devin Brooks. Applause thundered through the hall. Turner, now older and walking with a slight limp, looked over at Devin and smiled. You go first, kid, Devin chuckled. You always say that. When he reached the microphone, Devin paused, scanning the faces in the audience. Students, officers, artists, and neighbors from every part of the city. I started that mural to bring people together, he said. But what I didn't realize was that I'd have to break something open first. Not walls, but hearts. He turned slightly toward Turner. And this man right here, he was the first to let that happen. Turner lowered his head, humbled. Devin continued, Forgiveness doesn't erase what's wrong. It just gives us a way to start again. That's what Brookfield did. That's what we did. Applause rose again, this time softer, longer, like the sound of rain soaking into earth. When it was Turner's turn to speak, he moved slowly to the podium, resting both hands on either side of it. I used to think being a good cop meant following the law, he began. Now I know it means understanding people, especially the ones you misjudge. He looked toward the mural displayed behind him, his painted self still standing between those two reaching hands. That wall doesn't just show what happened, he said, voice trembling slightly. It shows what could have happened if one of us hadn't been brave enough to forgive. He turned toward Devin. You saved more than my reputation. You saved the part of me that forgot how to listen. The crowd stood in silence for a moment, then rose to their feet in applause that filled the hall like thunder. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Turner and Devin stepped outside together. The late afternoon sun painted the city gold. The mural, protected now by glass and light, shimmered across the street. Devin stopped to look at it. You ever get tired of seeing it? He asked with a smile. Turner chuckled. Every time I think I am, it hits me again. How something that started as a mistake turned into this. Devin nodded slowly. That's how redemption works. You don't erase the past. You color over it until it means something better. They stood there for a moment, the quiet hum of the city around them. Then Turner said softly, You know, I used to see walls as things that kept people out. Now I see them as something to build on. Devin smiled. Guess that's why we painted one together. Years later, when Turner passed away peacefully in his sleep, the city held a candlelight vigil in front of the mural. Thousands came, officers, artists, families, strangers, each holding a small light. Devin stood near the front, his eyes reflecting the flickering glow, and when dawn broke, he picked up a spray can and added one final touch to the mural. A small white dove, soaring above the two hands. Beneath it, he painted a simple inscription. For those who learn to see beyond the badge, the brush, and the walls between us. Months later, the city of Brookfield received national recognition for its reform programs and community art initiatives. At the dedication of a new youth arts center, Devin spoke to a group of students holding spray cans and sketchbooks. Art, he told them, isn't about perfection. It's about telling the truth. And sometimes, it's about helping people forgive themselves. A young girl raised her hand. Mr. Brooks, is that mural your favorite? Devin smiled softly. No, he said. My favorite one hasn't been painted yet. He pointed to the wall beside them, blank, wide, waiting. It's the one you're going to make. And as laughter and chatter filled the air, the morning sun illuminated the mural at 8th and Grant, still shining, still reaching, still teaching. Because some stories don't fade. They live on every wall, in every heart that chooses to see.